name is Jane Bailey. My husband's currently serving a life sentence for first-degree murder.
Nobody ever expected Jane Bailey to fall in love with a convicted murderer.
I guess you would consider me a goody two-shoes.
But she met and married her husband Josh while he was behind bars.
Josh is a violent criminal.
It wasn't what I would have chosen for my daughter.
The marriage has cost Jane nearly everything.
I ended up having to file bankruptcy, and I lost my house, and I lost my car.
She sacrifices a lot.
Now, will Jane lose her chance to become a mother?
The fact that we can't have sex is pretty difficult.
Everybody's like, oh, it's your decision, but do you really want to bring a kid into that situation?
This is Jane's story.
You have to be a really strong person to be married to someone in prison.
You're gonna hit to the ribs, you're gonna hit to the throat.
People treat you almost like they would treat the criminal on the street. They treat you the same way because you're married to one.
Good, 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 good.
Jane Bailey believes in having a strong body and a strong mind.
If you fall down in life, you pull yourself up by your bootstraps and get back in there and do it all over again.
As the wife of a man in prison, she says she needs both.
You have to build yourself up mentally against any type of prejudice you might face.
2 years ago, Jane married Josh Bailey, a devoted Buddhist and a convicted murderer.
Josh Bailey should stay in prison for the rest of his life. He took a life. He should pay for it with his life by staying in the state of Florida penitentiary system forever.
I don't feel myself to be innocent. I don't have any problem with doing time. I just don't feel like I should have to do the life sentence for premeditated murder, and that wasn't my intent.
At 30 years old, Josh is 10 years into a life sentence without the possibility of parole.
I haven't resigned myself to the fact that I'm going to do life in prison. It just doesn't compute for me.
I don't have to be married to Josh to be able to stand on my 2 feet and get by in life, but I want to be married to Josh.
This isn't Jane's first marriage.
I have been married before. I got married when I was about 23. I kind of think I married my first husband for the wrong reasons.
Jane's first marriage lasted just 4 years.
We had some difficulties because my first husband had some infidelity. Obviously, he didn't love me. He may have cared about me, but he wasn't in love with me.
When Jane was 27 years old, she divorced her first husband.
Jane was sobbing as she told us, and it just broke my heart.
I just wanted her to be happy and just go on with her life.
No one could have predicted that Jane would find her next husband behind bars. But a year later, fate and family intervened.
My brother John, I met this girl named Wendy. They decided to get engaged and get married, and I found out that Wendy had a brother in prison.
It was right before I was to get married, and I wanted to go see Josh, but I really didn't want to go by myself. And Jane goes, "Oh, I'll go with you." And I was like, "Really, Jane? You want to go with me?"
Well, I'm open to try new things, and I was like, okay, if he's okay with having some stranger come visit him, I'll go with you.
I was very open to my sister bringing a friend to come visit me for simply just having another visitor. The first visit I had with Jane and my sister was just open, genuine, talking.
He and I carried the conversation most of that day, and we touched on so many subjects. We talked about religion and politics and history and animals, and we just hit it off. I mean, we really hit it off. I was surprised.
Jane left the prison intrigued and curious.
Jane said, "Oh, your brother Josh is really nice."
I'm like, you have a really intelligent brother. He's good looking too, but I'm like, how did he end up in a place like this?
Josh's sister told Jane early on that Josh was serving a life sentence for murder.
I think that some people just get the wrong impression. Just because he's in prison doesn't mean he's a bad person.
He didn't seem like a criminal. He didn't seem like a bad guy. He seemed like a good guy, like any normal guy you meet on the street.
Jane said, "I think I'd like to go back with you next time you go." And I was like, okay.
Jane went back to the prison again and again, sharing visits and letters with Josh.
One of my favorites. It's also one of the first ones he ever sent me. Was a thinking of you card.
Jane and I's friendship developed from just being open and, genuine, the way we communicate with each other and talk about things.
When I met Josh, we didn't have romantic feelings. I mean, I thought he was nice, but he was in prison. I was like, how can you, I couldn't feel romantic about that.
But while Jane fought her feelings for Josh, she was undeniably drawn to him.
This is the first picture we ever had taken together.
I hate to say it because it sounds so cliche, but you have a little twinkle in your eye and different things like that, and you could see that with Jane.
Ultimately, it was Jane that turned the friendship into a romance.
I knew the relationship with Jane, I was blossoming into something more when I got a letter from her.
And I kind of just posed the question, are you interested, basically? Would you be interested in a relationship that was more than just a friendship?
My hesitation was the fact that perhaps I won't get off the life sentence and I will do life in prison. And do I want to entrap Jane?
But Josh overcame his initial hesitation, and the two began a romantic relationship.
I can't define or tell Jane what makes her happy, and she needs to make that decision before we committed to marriage.
I just kind of felt it was like a connection of a kindred spirit. Like, I met somebody that understands me, kind of gets me. We've all committed some pretty grave sins in our lives, I'm sure. And I don't want to put a label on if one person's crime is worse than another.
But Jane's parents were terrified for their only daughter.
I didn't like it. It upset me that she would take and go see a guy that committed murder. But then when she told us, she says, "Dad, I'm serious." So we wanted to go meet this guy.
It wasn't what I would have chosen for my daughter. And I never would have dreamed that she'd have met somebody in prison.
That's true.
And I was sort of, what am I doing on the way to see somebody in prison?
A year into the relationship, Jane's parents finally met her new boyfriend.
I'll be honest with you, I was ready for a fight. But when I got up there and was talking to him, the man won me over.
Once Josh comes into your life, you never want to get him out of your life. You want him to stay there forever.
In 2007, with both families by their side, Josh and Jane were married at the Polk Correctional Facility. Under Florida law, the young couple was not allowed to consummate their marriage.
The way I define love is that I want the best for Jane no matter what. That's unconditional love. I unconditionally love Jane.
I think that people think that I married Josh because of what happened with my first husband, because of the infidelity, because he's behind bars and he wouldn't go out and cheat on me. But I really loved Josh. I wanted to spend the rest of my life with Josh. And it wouldn't matter if he spent the rest of his life in prison. I wanted to be with him.
Still, Jane is hoping Josh won't spend his life behind bars, and she's actively fighting to get Josh released.
Currently, Josh and I filed an appeal, what they call a 3.850 appeal. It's a way to show, your counsel was ineffective. This is how my counsel was ineffective, and if they had done this, this would have been different. My outcome would have been different.
Jane knows much about their future together depends on the outcome of this appeal.
If it doesn't go well, we don't have a lot of other options open to us.
Coming up, will Jane's marriage to Josh cost her a lifelong dream?
I think everybody deserves a family. It may not be the most ideal situation, but I want to have the family.
And later, the crime that put Josh behind bars for life.
Josh is a violent criminal. He proved that June 24, 1998.
I'm a big daddy's girl. I guess you would consider me a goody two-shoes. I didn't get into a lot of trouble. I really believe in following the rules. I'm big on rules.
Growing up, Jane Bailey saw a future with a white picket fence and a husband at home.
I think I was very surprised that my search ended behind the walls of prison, because nobody goes to prison to look for a husband, let me tell you.
Before marrying Josh, Jane lived a comfortable life and even owned her own home.
I like to think of myself as an independent woman.
But Jane quickly discovered being married to a man serving a life sentence is costly.
Sometimes your expenses, they really pile up on you between owning a home and your homeowner's insurance. I had to pay for a lawyer, and I had to send Josh money, and I had to pay for phone calls. It just adds up after a while. I just couldn't swing it anymore.
In early 2008, Jane's financial situation hit rock bottom.
I had some financial difficulties, and I ended up having to file bankruptcy. And I lost my house, and I lost my car, and that was hard. That was really hard.
It was a devastating blow.
Yeah, you good girl, good boy, yeah.
Just 1 year after her marriage to Josh, Jane was forced to move back in with her parents.
It kind of makes you feel a little bit like a failure, like you couldn't succeed on your own.
Peggy and I can rely on each other. Jane has no one to rely on but herself. And as a parent, you don't want to see your children suffer. It really hurts down deep.
Jane losing her home was difficult for me. I'm from a relatively traditional family where the husband works and the wife stays at home, so I felt a little guilty for the fact I wasn't there and I wasn't being able to assist her with her bills and things.
It's me. Let me see what I got right here.
Fortunately, Jane managed to keep her job at an import company while she struggled to get back on her feet.
Thank you, ma'am.
Basically what I do now is accounts payables, receivables, I do payroll. What I do for a living is not my dream job, but it does provide me for a living. I wanted to go back to school to be a vet tech because I really want to work with animals. It's just financially, I can't do it. I just can't do it. Hey, that's okay. I'm moving.
Today, Jane is packing up the last of her boxes. After nearly a year of living with her parents, she's finally moving into her own place.
I figured it was time to get back out on my own, and that's what I'm doing now.
This time, instead of buying a home, Jane signed a lease on a small rental house a few streets away from her parents.
Now I'm back on my feet, and I signed the new lease, and it is great to live alone.
But even without a hefty mortgage, Jane faces a difficult road ahead.
She's the bill payer. She's the breadwinner. She makes all the decisions, some of the decisions that a married couple should make. She has to do it on her own.
Jane sacrifices a lot being married to me. She sacrifices, really, the traditional home life. You know, she doesn't have a husband home.
I feel like I'm getting so much in return by the sacrifices that I've had to make that I don't really think of a sacrifice as a bad thing.
While Jane has been able to rely on her family for support, her husband Josh hasn't always been so lucky.
We like to say that we put the fun in dysfunctional. We had a very dysfunctional family.
Josh grew up in a house with 6 brothers and sisters and never knew his real father.
My stepfather was abusive, would be angry, and he'd want to beat on us.
I think that our family kind of cheated Josh. We had a lot of chaos in our life. We have another son who is mentally ill. We were very apparent of his emotional needs because they were, unreal. And I think that Josh probably had some needs that weren't met.
By the time he was a teenager, Josh's behavior was spiraling out of control.
I was angry because I didn't like myself. I was told I was stupid. I was no good.
Josh stopped going to school and he started hanging out with punks. That's the only way you can say it. They were punks. They didn't go to school and they drank all day long and they did drugs.
Eventually, Josh's family lost all control of him.
He wouldn't talk to us anymore. Be gone for a couple of days at a time. So we kind of knew then that something was wrong.
There was no outlet to express myself, so I repressed it, So I was just, a time bomb waiting to explode.
On a summer night in 1998, Josh's destiny took a devastating turn.
I had been awake a couple days on methamphetamines. I was drunk.
After a night of drinking, Josh and his friend Nathan headed to a local convenience store where kids typically hung out.
They were bullies. That's all they were.
It's not like I got angry and I wanted to go out and beat somebody up.
But investigators say that's exactly what happened when Josh and Nathan confronted another young man outside the store.
They had words with a Hispanic youth. They wanted to bully him.
28-year-old Donald Fryer was working at the convenience store that night.
A lot of people knew him as Donnie. He wasn't a real big guy.
When Donnie saw the trouble unfolding, he came to the boys' rescue.
You guys gotta get out of here.
Donald Fryer was able to intercede. The Hispanic youth was able to get away. We believe this angered Josh Bailey and Nathan Gates.
After their original target escaped, the 2 boys decided to take out their anger on Donald Fryer.
They waited till he got off work. He was walking his bicycle through a small cut-through when Josh Bailey and Nathan Gates attacked him.
Yeah, it was just, I guess, being young and dumb and intoxicated and wanted to be a tough guy. So I was a tough guy. And we jumped on the guy.
One of them hit him with a beer bottle, knocking him down, and Josh Bailey and Nathan Gates proceeded to beat him with their fists and kick him.
Donald Fryer was in the fight of his life, and the night was far from over. To Jane, the troubled teen from that night bears no resemblance to the man she married.
I think being a Buddhist has helped him, and he's not hurt anymore, so he doesn't feel the need to hurt other people.
Buddhism has dynamically changed my character completely.
He's really been able to help him focus and put his life on a good path.
A devoted Buddhist from prison for the last 10 years, Josh claims that violence is a thing of the past.
I've literally don't kill bugs. I can't remember the last time I killed a bug. The person I am today is compassionate, loving, forgiving.
The love and the compassion and the understanding that I get from Josh is genuine, it's sincere.
Josh and Jane also credit Buddhism for bringing them together.
Jane definitely would not have fallen in love with the old Josh.
I'm in love with him the way he is now, and he's a good man.
Now, Jane is convinced that Josh would make a good father, and parenthood is one dream she doesn't want to give up.
I would love to have a child and have a little piece of me and Josh running around.
But Jane and Josh are not afforded conjugal visits, making Jane's dream vastly more difficult. Coming up, Jane's fight to have a baby,
Jane Bailey,
is met with harsh reality.
You're having children where, you know, dad's a convicted felon on a life sentence.
And I set my mind to something. I'm pretty determined.
Will Josh ever get out of prison or become a father?
To commit this kind of crime, it would take someone who has no care or concern of another human life.
I want what's best for Josh. I really want him to get out, and if something were to happen to me, nobody would jump in and take my place and push to get him out of prison. So that scares me the most.
Yes, you are. You're a good boy.
1 year into her marriage to Josh, Jane faced the worst kind of news.
I had nodules growing on my thyroid. They sent me for some tests, and they thought that it could be cancer.
After having her entire thyroid removed, doctors declared her cancer-free.
I don't want to ever have surgery again, so I want to be healthy.
Today, Jane has never been healthier.
Does everything come from here locally?
And she credits her health-conscious husband with the change.
She's trying to live a healthy lifestyle. She has to regulate her diet differently now since she doesn't have the thyroid in.
He's been a real help and helping me decide, you know, what foods are better to eat.
Jane and I work as a team. I'll kind of point her in the direction. I'll say, okay, we need to do this, or that.
When I call him up, I'll tell him what my progress has been. He's always very supportive no matter what decision I make.
Yes. You'll find everything okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, Jane wants what so many married women do: children.
Oh, thank you.
It may not be the most ideal situation, but I want to have a family.
Despite Josh's life sentence, Jane is convinced that he will walk free one day.
We truly believe that he's going to get a second chance.
I want to actually have a real house and car and family, you know, the traditional lifestyle for my child.
But time has suddenly become precious. Jane is quickly approaching 35 years old.
I think about my biological clock ticking probably more now than I ever used to.
To make matters worse, the state of Florida does not allow conjugal visits.
The fact that we can't have sex is pretty difficult. That's an obvious challenge for us having children.
Today, Jane has an appointment with her doctor.
Now, because I don't have a thyroid, I have to go to the doctor every 3 months.
But at this visit, Jane has decided to explore her options for becoming a mother.
I think one of the most important jobs you can do is be a parent. And so it's really important to me that I one day get that chance.
Jane Bailey. Hi, come on in.
Hi.
Hey, Dr. Ford.
How are you, Jane?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm doing well today. Good to see you.
It's good to see you, too.
How's life been treating you?
Good.
Good.
Same old, same old.
Same old, same old. Outstanding. Your thyroid is a little underactive.
Still?
Yeah, we're on a little too much medicine. We just need to back it down.
Okay.
Jane quickly broaches the subject of having children.
I know you're aware of my situation with my husband being incarcerated. And we've been talking about eventually having children, which might make it a little difficult because he's in there and I'm not here.
Just a touch.
Just a touch. And so I wanted to talk about some options that might be open.
I don't have a problem asking Dr. Ford anything, actually. He's pretty straightforward, honest. You know, he'll tell you what he thinks.
You know, you're going to have two problems, really, obviously. In order to get pregnant, we need your husband's sperm, we need your egg. Now, we have access to you.
Right.
I have no idea legally what the law is for whether or not he can go to the infirmary,
right,
you know, and get us a specimen that we can preserve.
I'm doing research on that now to try to find out if, you know, that's something that I can do for the future.
But aside from the medical challenges, Jane's doctor sees other potential problems.
Let's say he doesn't get his convictions overturned or a lesser sentence and they leave him with where he's at currently.
Right.
You know, the question is then you're having children where, you know, dad's a convicted felon on a life sentence.
Right.
That's still a lot of pressure to put on a kid to bring him into the world. I think the other thing you need to really
It hurts when people say that. It's almost like they think because you want to bring a child into that environment that that you're going to be a bad parent because you're not thinking about the child's welfare.
Okay.
If you get access or things change, then we'll go off to we'll get you to the fertility doctors and we'll get you a lab slip up front.
All right.
All right. Hang in there, darling. Come on.
All right, thanks.
Josh and Jane are unclear whether Florida law will allow them to get Josh's sperm.
We need to consult an attorney, see what the legal options are to get my sperm.
Josh Bailey would like to right the wrongs of the past.
Somebody died. There's no coming back. You can't take him back. There's nothing you can do.
It was the night of June 24th, 1998. 28-year-old Donald Fryer was fighting to survive a brutal beating by Josh Bailey and Nathan Gates.
I don't remember, really. I was all boozed up, and half of it was, you know, a fuzz.
Josh Bailey jumped on top of him and started punching him. They both took part in this beating. He was beaten unconscious.
But the boys weren't finished yet.
He was dragged across the street and put in the pond and held down until his death.
The following day, Donald Fryer's body was found in the shallow pond.
People told us about this altercation. We had been at that scene probably 3, maybe 4 hours when we started gathering information. That led us to both Josh Bailey and Nathan Gates.
Witnesses told investigators Josh had confessed to the crime in the hours following the drowning.
Josh Bailey had bragged. He had talked to a person at another convenience store where he had gone. This person related to us that he had come in with blood all over his pants, and he said that he was the one that put him in the pond and held him down until he was dead.
Investigators believe Josh then attempted to destroy evidence of the killing.
Nathan went home, supposedly. I'm really not sure where Josh went, but he did take the victim's bicycle and burn it, which we found later.
In the small town of Dover, detectives quickly tracked down their suspects.
Nathan Gates initially spoke to us at the scene and later at our office, and we gained a confession from him. Some patrol deputies responded over to Josh's house. Josh told us that he had taken part in beating this boy unconscious by punching him and kicking him.
But Josh maintains to this day that he did not take part in the drowning.
I'm not guilty of the crime that I was convicted of. It's my nature to hold somebody's head underwater. I don't care how intoxicated I am.
He was bragging about a murder, and he was also disposing of evidence by burning the victim's bicycle.
On June 25th, 1998, Josh Bailey and Nathan Gates were both arrested and charged with murder.
Wake up, this is a bad dream. I could not believe it. They made a mistake, you know. Josh shouldn't have been involved in this. He should have been home with us.
But Josh wasn't coming home. In 1999, Josh Bailey was tried and convicted of first-degree murder and sentenced to life without parole.
I know this is going to sound really bad, but first-degree murder for life imprisonment. It's almost worse than if he had been killed. It's almost like he's a walking dead person.
Jane has never doubted Josh's version of the crime.
My husband isn't guilty of the crime that he's convicted of. And I guess people would probably say that, oh, of course she's going to say that. That's her husband. But I don't believe he's completely innocent. Regardless of whether he were guilty or not, I would still love him.
If Josh isn't released, Jane's best chance of getting pregnant will be through artificial insemination. Today, unsure where to start, Jane calls Josh's attorney.
I did talk to my doctor about it, but of course, he brought up, well, you gotta do the legal, route, because I wasn't sure where I'd start with something like that either. I didn't even know if it's ever been done.
When I was talking to Josh's attorney, I got really upset because he was kind of really negative about that idea.
You too. Bye-bye. Basically, he told me he wasn't sure where I would start with something like that either, as far as kids. But he thought it was which is basically the same thing the doctor said was, everybody's like, oh, it's your decision, but do you really want to bring a kid into that situation?
With her chance of becoming a mother in jeopardy, Jane is putting all her faith in Josh's upcoming appeal. Coming up.
I don't think my husband deserves to spend life in prison.
I'm going to die in prison if I don't get an appeal.
Josh hasn't let prison turn him into a bad person. He actually used prison as a jumping off point to make his life better.
Jane Bailey believes in second chances.
I believe he was meant to get out, and he's meant to do something in this world that is great.
With the help of an attorney, Jane and Josh recently filed an appeal that could grant Josh a new hearing.
An evidentiary hearing is basically a quasi-trial. New evidence has to be presented. So I have to go back to court to introduce that evidence, and then they'll base their decision on the merit of whatever I brought to the court.
While admitting to brutally beating 28-year-old Donald Fryer, Josh has always denied playing a role in the drowning.
They said that I did go into water and I did hold this guy down. The fact is they never tested my clothes for any type of algae or anything like that. And I'm going to take it to an independent lab and test it and show for a fact that I was never around any water.
Josh Bailey's not telling you the truth, and the jury of the state of Florida didn't believe that either.
That's a testimony we wouldn't let in.
With a busy lawyer, Jane is constantly trying to come up with new evidence on her own.
I'm willing to put up whatever work into it that needs to be done.
That's not the interview I'm looking for.
Jane's life with Josh depends on winning this appeal and getting a new hearing.
Right now, that's his only chance. If it doesn't go well, we don't have a lot of other options open to us.
For now, Jane faithfully visits Josh at the Polk Correctional Facility, 30 miles away.
I used to visit him every weekend, 2 times, Saturdays and Sundays. The financial burden is so much. I visit Josh in prison right now every other weekend, usually on the weekends that I get paid, because then I always have money.
On this Sunday morning, Jane is up at 7 a.m. to get to the prison.
I put a little extra into the makeup, which is more than I do during the week for work, because I want my husband to feel like he's special.
We love each other. We want to spend time with each other.
We need that time together. That helps our relationship.
She's dependable. She's there for me.
Once you go in and you usually sit down and I wait and they have a door where they all come out, I can always tell when Josh sees me in the room because he has his face lights up. He always smiles and I always smile back to him. And it's a good feeling.
It's 2:30 by the time Jane leaves the prison.
We had a really good time. We talked about all kinds of things today. We talked about our doctor visit, about the kids, and
about getting pregnant.
I like to plan for the future, so I have short-term, mid-range, and long-term goals. And one of my long-term goals is once I'm out of prison, having a home and a relationship and children.
But for now, Jane still has to head home alone.
After I visit with Josh, I always go home in a good mood, but I'm always a little sad to leave because I have to leave him there.
Over the last 5 years, Jane has formed a bond with Josh's family.
Jane gives Josh hope that there is a future, that he has someone that cares and loves him enough to offer him a future.
Jane is especially close with her niece, Jasmine.
Jane loves Jasmine. Jane and Jasmine are two little peas in a pod.
Okay.
After Jane's prison visit, both families get together for a Sunday barbecue.
What you doing? Did you send me something to eat?
I like the family dynamic with Jane and, my family and how my sister's married to her brother. It gives her somebody out there.
Is that for me?
I hope
okay, that's good.
Done.
I got flip-flops on, yeah.
I vicariously live through her. She tells me about, what's going on with my family.
How was your visit with Josh today? Was it a good one?
Yeah, it was good, yeah. We had a lot of fun today. Today we just talked about, my doctor's visit and, that kind of stuff.
So what do you have to do to see if you can have his people froze and have a baby or whatever?
His stuff?
Yeah. His sperm.
I will have to do some research and probably find a lawyer because it's going to be, I think it's more like a civil rights thing.
Josh doesn't have civil rights. He's in prison.
Yeah, but I do.
There you go.
Both families know Jane and Josh are fighting an uphill battle to have children.
I've been in prison visiting Josh when I've seen dads that are in there they're good dads. I don't even know who they are. I don't know what they've done, but I can see the love they have for their children. And I can see the love their children have for them.
You gotta find the right case law, you gotta find the right lawyer, and, But, I don't know. I'm pretty good at that kind of stuff.
Well, that's what the internet is.
And so is Josh.
We think Josh would make a good dad, and he would get to see his children. They would go visit him just like Jane does now. But it would be a big responsibility for her.
But that's what family's for. She has a family that will help her on both sides.
Hey, Ginger. What you doing?
Jane is determined to pursue her dream of becoming a mother.
All right, look out. You gonna come back here with me?
Discouraged by the call with her lawyer, Jane searches the internet for more information.
I had to come to my mom and dad's to use the internet because since I moved in, I don't have internet at my new place yet. Right now, I'm gonna start researching whether we can find any type of reproductive rights for inmates.
Jane finds a lawsuit, but it's filed by a California inmate.
He'd be allowed to be mailed a plastic container into which he would ejaculate and then be allowed to return the container back to the lab by overnight.
In this case, a judge ruled against the inmate.
It says the court also rejected the claim that the prisoner had a right to procreate under California law.
She's going to have to go through all kinds of drama if I don't get out to have children, which she really wants by a certain age.
Well, male inmates who are denied conjugal visits to become fathers through artificial insemination. In another case, the court was unsympathetic with a prisoner's spouse who attempted to accomplish the goal. Did prisoners have a right to use artificial insemination? I don't see anything for Florida.
Jane's search turns up nothing in the state of Florida.
I don't mind being a pioneer for a good cause. If it sets some precedents and then it'll help somebody else out, that would be great. I'm pretty determined, and I'll keep looking, and I'll see what I can find.
Coming up, a decision on Josh's appeal.
And that's what we're striving for him to get a reduced sentence or a new trial. Sometimes you do feel like, gosh, I've sacrificed a lot. There are days that I wonder if marrying Josh was worth it.
Being married to a man behind bars is not an easy life.
You don't have another person there to depend on to help you with things as simple as daily chores. Somebody else can take out the trash.
Jane's one chance to feel like a normal wife is her nightly phone call with Josh.
Hello. This is a prepaid collect call from an inmate at Florida Correctional Institution.
Hello?
Hey, honey.
Each night, Jane and Josh talk about the day's events.
I did some research today on the procreation with inmates and artificial insemination, all that kind of stuff. There's not a whole lot of stuff out there. I can't find a lot of stuff in the state of Florida, so it may not have ever been done in Florida, so I got to keep researching that.
Sounds very intimate, doesn't it?
No, it doesn't.
Give us a few minutes alone and then we'll do it ourselves.
Yeah. Adoption could be an option, but I kind of feel like if I were to apply to adopt a child, I might not get the most consideration, being as I would be, it'd be like a single mother. I'd rather do it the old-fashioned way too, but
I prefer just to get out and have children than have to go through that personally. So
you know,
you need to just work on my case and try to get me out of prison so I can have children without doing that.
Limited to just 15 minutes, tonight's call quickly comes to an end.
I love you. Goodbye. All right, bye, sweetie.
Jane will fight to see her dream of motherhood come true.
This will work out, and I just, have to stay the course and be strong.
But even Jane's own family sees the brutal reality of the situation.
I think she would love a child of her own, but I don't know if it's going to happen in her future. And I don't know if we're going to be able to have a grandchild from that marriage.
Getting Josh released may be Jane's only real chance of ever having children.
One of my biggest goals is to do everything that I can to give him a chance to live outside those walls.
It's not that I want to be, just a husband, father. I want to be the best husband and the best father.
Several days later, Jane gets an update on Josh's appeal.
I tried to call you a couple times because I wanted to ask you about that. Yeah. Right. Okay. Okay.
1 year after filing the appeal, they have a decision.
I appreciate it. Oh, I sure will. Thanks. Bye. We got granted the evidentiary hearing. This is a big chance for us, for him to get a reduced sentence or a new trial. And that's what we're striving for. Josh's attorney asked me to get some copies of some records and send it to him. So I gotta get that done today.
The hearing will give Josh's attorney the opportunity to present evidence that wasn't entered in his trial.
I have evidence that is exculpatory. It'll prove the fact that I wasn't where they said I was when the crime was committed.
Jane will have to wait for a hearing date to be set. Still, she feels one step closer to having the family she's always dreamed of.
Our attorney will tell you that we have a good chance. There's no guaranteed outcomes to this, but we have a good chance.
Buddhism teaches that I can start over. I can retrain my mind. I don't have to be a bad person. I have a choice. I can be miserable, I can be happy. I want to be happy. So that's the way I am today.
If he's turned his life around, God bless him. But the unfortunate reality is Donald Fryer can't get married. Donald Fryer can't have any kids. Donald Fryer isn't walking amongst the citizens of this county. That's because of Mr. Bailey.
Are you tricking me?
Hurry, hurry, hurry! Before Jane gets you! Come on, come on, come on!
Jane credits Josh with teaching her the ability to be happy with the life she has today.
Since I don't have kids of my own, it's kind of like I live vicariously a little bit through my sister-in-law Wendy and my brother John. Would you like it if you had a little cousin to play with?
If there was a choice that had to be made that said you can either marry Josh and not have kids, or you can go marry someone else and have kids, I think that Jane would still marry Josh.
I don't care what I have to go through. As long as I'm with Josh, then the ride's all worthwhile. My husband, he likes to send me watercolors, have the guys do watercolors and send them to me.
The way I define love is that I want the best for Jane no matter what. If tomorrow she meets some guy who really treats her good and she has to leave me, I'll be happy for Jane. I might be happy for myself, but, ultimately that's what true love is.
Josh is it for me. Even if something happened to him, I don't think I'd get married again. I don't think my heart would be in it.
Jane is committed to waiting for Josh, dreaming of having a place to finally call home.
In 10 or 15 years, if I'm with my husband and I'm happy and I have a couple of kids, I think then it would feel like the best home. And it wouldn't matter where we lived. It would be home.